How are you?
I am great. Great to be here.
Really thankful for you to be here. Obviously, Wpromote has been a longtime partner. I've had the benefits of working with Wpromote for quite some time. Really appreciate the work that you guys do with a lot of brands and retailers out in the space, and I'm glad we can come together like this to talk about, how do we get through some of the challenges, and what do we look forward to as we move on. So anxious to have this discussion with you.
Yeah, excited to be here. And it's funny, when you reached out a few weeks ago, it was like, hey, we talk about this every day, all day. So this is very easy conversation to have.
That's right. And that's the whole point of this, right? We want to make sure that we're providing some proactive, that's the key word, right? What's the proactive value that businesses should be thinking about, as they look at the challenges and, most importantly, the successes that they need to achieve at the end of this year as well as into 2021. So let's dig in a little bit and chat about some of the things that we've learned in 2020 in the 5 months that we had to take on this very challenging pandemic. None of us saw it coming, but we're trying to manage through it, and we think that there's some upside for us as we start to think of the ways in which we can be successful. So we'll talk about that as well. But I thought it would be important to just lay a foundation that, look, we've been five months into this pandemic. Kind of what are you seeing from clients? Let me give you an example. What we've learned is that, when this thing first hit, our clients were, paused, right? They had to recalibrate their business priorities. They had to restructure. They had to reformulate their budgets. And nobody knew how bad this thing was going to be. So there was a lot of that kind of rejiggering, so to speak. And one of the things that I saw that was really impactful was, our client, McKinsey Childs, where they emphasize the importance of loyalty. I thought that was really important. They actually came out and said, hey, if we had to cut down to 2 to 3 services that we pay for, loyalty would be the one that we would keep. So that's a key learning from their standpoint, right? They had to, after all that, recalibration, they landed the fact that loyalty and customer retention was going to be key to their business. What were some of the things that you guys had seen and that you've heard back from clients as it relates to some of those key learnings?
Yeah, I'll even take a step back. When we sort of, when things started happening, right? When the world was in the peak of uncertainty in the, end of March, beginning of April, there was total paralysis and sort of, hey, daily huddles, existential threat. Is the world going to go to zero? I mean, truly, like, where am I going to get toilet paper? Like, if you put our minds back, it seems a long time ago. It was, shockingly, it was only a few months. We looked at our pretty diverse group of clients. We have, funded startups, enterprises, lots of mid-market growth, really a pretty interesting, diverse set of clients. And we looked at them and said, hey, where's the risk and opportunity among them? And sort of created these crude 3 buckets. And interestingly, we've sort of carried forward this way of thinking about them because the learnings and challenges are really different in these buckets. So one was what I call direct hits. We had, airlines and hotels and water parks. I mean, these are direct hit, potentially existential threat, devastated, and could be at best a medium to long run recovery, and maybe not even a long run recovery. I would argue business travel may never reach previous levels because businesses have realized maybe we were getting on planes more than we needed to, even if there's a vaccine that everyone takes, right? So there's sort of direct hit. There's what we called strong but wounded, and I think we used different wording, but that holds still pretty true, which is like, hey, we're gonna make it, but there's uncertainty, there's a lack of confidence. People are, unemployment is on the rise. Hey, I want to buy a car. Maybe I shouldn't buy it now. May of 2020 seems like not a great time, right? Kind of fundamentally, there's not a change in behavior that concerns us, but it's challenging times. And then you have kind of the other end, the other side, which are maybe inversely affected, like positively affected. Any at-home fitness and, a lot of skincare and cosmetics, things that you can do at home instead of going to a salon. Like a lot of those very, anything that helps education, kids' toys, right? Like puzzles, like all these little bizarre areas. Every barbell is sold out in the universe in April of 2020, right? Who would have known? And interestingly, the learnings across these 3 groups in the beginning were very, very different, right? Because they fundamentally survival, play defense, play offense, right? What we've learned, though, that connects them all, really all, and even fast forward, 5 months, I think those ones that are doing well are flourishing and actually figuring out, okay, when is this good wave? When people return to work, or is this bad? And when gyms open, is my barbell sales, home fitness sales going to fall? Like, that's a concern. But I think the collective, all three of them have had to accept that what got us here won't get us there. The exact tactics and the way that they thought about budgeting and tracking and measurement and the value of a customer and client and what they think of as loyalty those things that may have felt like they're working, you kind of have to start over and say, we need to relearn normal, right? Mm-hmm. Because, and even the customers that we acquire, we've talked about these amazing stats, like, 40% of American households bought from a brand they had never bought from before starting in the pandemic. And in almost the same number, a similar 40%, say that they will continue buying from a brand that once this has ended. That's incredibly inspirational for every brand, but like the giant staples that may just assume that, hey, we can turn off our advertising and pause. And when we unpause it, all of our customers will come back. I would argue they won't all come back because some of them have discovered new brands that maybe they like better, right? And maybe they resonate more. And so, but I think the ones that have accepted that putting our heads in the sand and waiting for the storm to pass, because as we're realizing now, it's not a very defined beginning and end to the storm, right? This is a new life that we are living in. And so if you're waiting for the storm to pass, you might be waiting forever, right? And that the ones that don't, that say, where are our customers and where is the value and how can we be impactful and answer questions and do all of these engaging things to create a relationship with them, we will be rewarded in the immediate and the long term with loyalty and revenue from them. That, no matter where you sit in these three buckets or however you want to think about the differently affected businesses, that is kind of the universal truth that we have found, sort of mindset, that if you have that mindset, you're at least positioning yourself to end up a winner in the big picture.
Right. No, that's well said. You touched on a couple of really good points there. Let's talk about some of the history that we've learned, because this is really important, right? We are in a really bad recession. We all get it. Half of the U.S. adult population is unemployed. Disposable income is at risk. Consumers are looking at ways in which they can have more value, or less disposable income means that they're not going to be able to afford like they once. And you mentioned essentials versus non-essentials, right? And we're in that business, right? We're in the non-essentials business. You mentioned health and beauty and cosmetics and fashion apparel and home goods and all the things that become questionable because times are really difficult. And one of the other elements that we learned going back to the last Great Recession in 2008 was that there was a great study done by Catalina Marketing and the CMO Council that highlighted in a survey, a research survey that was 32 million consumers, 685 brands. In the high loyal bucket in 2007, brands were only able to maintain 48%. 52% actually defected or actually switched. So those are lessons that we have to learn. And I think what we're saying is this is a time, and I always like the challenger mindset of Wpromote. The challenger mindset is, look, now's the time to play offense. Put stakes in the ground, place some bets, come out of this thing as best you can, and focus on the things that are certain in your business, right? Your employee base is certain that once you've gone through a recalibration. Your customer base, your existing customer base is certain. And you've got your analytics that you can rely on to help you get through these difficult times. So those are all key elements as we think through how does this new age, take place. And speaking of that, now that we've got this big rush to online, like whether you were planning for it or whether you had to just now accelerate it, it's here now, right? Because this is where you're living and breathing. So that's another element that you guys have done so well in, is working with brands and retailers and understanding what is that right digital experience, for customers so that they remain loyal, they buy as much as they can given the constraints of their income, but have that really good connected experience, because in those elements, it's got to be about communication, value, trust, how are you guys thinking through that with your existing clients to make sure you optimize that digital experience because they had to rush to get there?
Yeah, it's so interesting. You allude to an acceleration that we've chatted about, which is and I think McKinsey put out a study and Google put, and it's sort of intuitively, we all know this. There are tens of millions of households that were forced to learn a new way of shopping and acquiring goods, which is through e-commerce, right? Through Amazon and directly from brands and so forth, right? If I can't go to my local, if the Sunday morning routine of going to the 8 stores to shop for the week is an impossibility, tens of millions of households were forced to, at least temporarily, acquire goods and shop in different ways. And a significant majority of those are not going to go back to their old ways, partly because they might found the new ways more convenient. They're like, hey, this is what Amazon Prime is. Who knew? This is great. Like and so what we've seen is, and then the statistics back this up, something like, in 3 months, in the crazy 3 months of spring of 2020, there was an equal amount of e-commerce adoption as the preceding 10 years combined, right? It was like, 20% went from 0 to 20% of US households as regular e-commerce shoppers. It took 10 years to get there. It took 3 months to double again, right? Mind-boggling to think about, even if some of those end up returning to their previous ways of shopping. So to me, that acceleration, it almost trumps any other deceleration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we found that even this, hey, there's a lot of unemployment and uncertainty. We look inside of brands that are selling directly to the consumer, and interestingly, you wouldn't be able to look at their numbers and discern that there's some rampant unemployment, not to take away from the macro challenges, but it's almost important to say, if you're just growing at 10% from last quarter, which was obviously like a very low point trough, I would argue you are not growing fast enough, right? Like you're actually leaving opportunity on the table, right? So we're seeing, it's hard to say what the benchmark should be, but our clients, outside of the ones that are directly affected, travel, hospitality, they're sort of in their own challenging space and will be for a while. You should be growing fast. And I think from a what it takes to get there, and it's interesting, one of our clients, I won't name them, but you can take a guess. Yeah. They're a super large manufacturer of appliances, right? They're a tens of billions of dollar revenue company. And one of the biggest accelerations that they're seeing is, and intuitively we would get this, is people are not walking into Home Depots and Best Buys to buy their large appliances. They're buying online. And so they're, 8 months ago, their direct-to-consumer efforts were truly a rounding error out of $20 billion. And suddenly they are much more than a rounding error because such a giant, like their whole pie shrank, right? And so what they're having their shift, which we're seeing present in a lot of other marketing, and we're having these conversations among small and large companies alike, is, hey, these dollars going to performance marketing, these dollars going to loyalty, these are not marketing dollars you should pull back. These are the ones you should double down on because they're providing a return today. They'll help you get out of this hole, right? So sure, cut all over here, to use this giant appliance company as an example, their 20 billion of revenue globally might shrink to 15 billion. I'm making up numbers, right? Sure. But the 100 million in direct to consumer can grow to $1 billion. Right. And not only that could be a profitable growth to $1 billion. And so we have to have some new conversations. They have to learn some new muscles to say, hey, these marketing dollars or these re-engagement dollars or loyalty dollars or dollars to improve your customer experience, this isn't some wishful thinking for the future. This is driving revenue today. This will actually help prop up the retail part of your business that might be in shambles. And that's in terms of like new conversations and some challenging conversations. CFOs and people that control the purse strings in companies are having to rethink the way they think about costs, right? In a period where the assumption is, hey, reel it all back in, cut any cost that's not essential for survival. And we're like, this meter over here, for every dollar you put in, you're taking out 2. It doesn't matter if you're bailing water over here, you should be feeding that meter.
Right. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And some of the things that, we've highlighted on this is looking at, your existing customer base, understanding that these are real opportunities, right? Real opportunities now, because everybody's had a chance to kind of get through the rough spots. But I think what we're saying, I think you would agree that you place those bets, you double down, right? You position yourself to come out very successful, because we are going to go through this recovery. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, and you want to be prepared for it. But there's, with these opportunities, with the customer experience and the digital online, and be able to demonstrate real value, and empathy too. Empathy and communication is really important, because we want people to understand that we get it. We understand these are challenging times, right? And these customers, these clients, these brands, these retailers are there to support you and be there and make things as easy on you as you can. And those are the things that create that level of loyalty and stickiness that everybody wants, right? So as we think about moving forward in 2021, well, actually the holiday season, we should talk about the Q4 holiday, which is right around the corner. Just a quick comment on, how are you seeing things differently for this Q4, because it is uniquely different?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's Q4 of 2020. If I thought I didn't have a crystal ball, I now definitely know that I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, if you take uncertainty in literally every area, there's, where's sort of the virus, the actual, health concerns, international, domestic travel, what is that going to mean? What is it going to mean on economies reopening and employment? We then have a super monumental presidential election. And by the way, I don't even know which way it's going to have some impact. And I couldn't even guess which way has what impact. It's so complex. When you combine 5 pieces of giant uncertainty, I don't know how to weight them in a way that makes sense. That said, overall, we are approaching it with a pretty optimistic viewpoint. We think that in general, this recovery is continuing. We look at a lot of data points. I mean, we're looking at conversion rate and order value, and we're macro data and micro data, and what's driving behavior. And if you disconnect from the news, which we found to be a very not a good place to get a real read on society and temperament and really the economics driving purchase and purchase behavior, you won't learn that by watching the news for obvious reasons. That's not what they're doing. There's better or worse, not what they're there for. We're seeing generally all positive trends, and that we anticipate a Black Friday and Cyber Monday and holiday season that's going to look very different, but that overall we are anticipating a significant recovery with a lot of X factors thrown in. But I'm hoping that the X factors, to a certain extent, will balance each other out. There's going to be some positives, some negatives, some unknowns, and a lot of the uncertainty. I mean, some of the things, presidential election, regardless of the outcome, uncertainty becomes certainty. And generally, people like certainty, even if the certainty is, regardless of if the certainty is great or not great, which is such an interesting psychological thing. So we're putting a lot of time to make sure that our clients and our brands, and I'm sure you guys are doing the same, are going to have the best possible recovery in Q4, because I don't want to look back and in Q1 of 2021 and we're like, we were kind of playing defense for these brands. They could have taken market share. They could have accelerated their recovery, and instead they played it a little. They played it light, right? They sort of said, okay, we don't want to put too many dollars at risk, and there's unknowns, so we're going to sit back and watch. I don't want to look back and be like, we missed an opportunity to take market share from competitors. And so again, that challenger mindset of let's be cautiously optimistic, aware of risk, watch things in real time, so we don't get, we're not over committing to a bad course of action. But overall, I think we're feeling a lot of excitement, tempered with a good amount of uncertainty.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think we're actually viewing Q4 as being kind of really the Q1 of the foundation for Q1, right there. Yeah. That's your foundation. That's your Q1 now, because we're pretty excited about it. We like the fact that, in fact, Gartner just came out with its budget CMO budget survey, and they emphasize the fact that look, spending the dollars on your existing customers is the right thing to do as it relates to your most valuable and profitable customers. Those are the ones that are going to ease your path to a successful recovery.
Yep.
Those are the things that we start to see, happening. Of course, we'd like to see, more emphasis on putting those stakes in the ground for Q4, because the earlier you get a jump on that, the more you're going to be able to achieve. And that's what we're hoping for. And with working with good partners like yourself and talking to a lot of brands, and the importance of the digital experience and the value-oriented messaging and the ability to retain your most valuable and profitable customers to help you get through the rough spots. And this is equally important too, Mike. I want to make sure that we get your comments on this too. Is sure, we want to manage through this difficult time, but we're setting the stage that businesses should be always mindful of nurturing their existing customer relations. Don't wait until things get worse. Don't wait until things are bad. Don't wait until we have another recession. There always has to be this element of, hey, 20% of my existing customer base is making up 80% of my revenues. I got to make sure I'm maintaining those relationships. And sure, when things get better and the economy starts to boom and you can do other things, for sure. What we're saying is that you should always have a mindful eye on the fact that your existing customer base is your most powerful asset that's going to get you through good times and rough times and set you up for success. So I know we're getting close to the time for us to conclude, but if you could highlight a couple of things in 2021 that you're looking forward to, and some of the things you've heard from your clients about, hey, we're going to try and accomplish these three things and get us to a successful conclusion in 2021. What are some of those things that people should be mindful of as well as they go into that foundation of the Q1 and what we call Q1 for Q4, but just really setting themselves up for 2021?
Yeah, by the way, I like that. Let's end 2020 early on September 30th. Let's just have 2021 start early on October 1st. It'll be a 5-quarter year.
I love it. Let's end it early. Let's go to 2021.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think the couple of thoughts that are, I think, very congruent with the way that you're thinking about this is, one, don't apply the exact same playbook that you did before, right? The way that you would think about, oh, we do this type of holiday sale and we do this on these days. I would say, not to say all of those things are wrong, but right. I think this is a different time and I want to recognize that. It doesn't mean that my ad creative needs to be like, in uncertain times, and like right. We've seen enough of that kind of generic, this generic COVID ads. But right. But I think really thinking about what the way that the differing mindset and different concern, uncertainty, ways that people are actually engaging, communicating, like just be there in the right way, right? That people are spending their time differently, engaging with media differently, making purchase decisions differently. Spend time thinking about what those differences are and recraft a plan that matches that. I will totally agree. I think and this comes from, it's shocking coming from us because we do so much customer acquisition of net new customers, but absolutely positively, we joked months ago, loyalty is the new customer acquisition, retention is the new acquisition. And I think it's true, right? I think and everyone's always heard and spouted for years, oh, it's cheaper to keep an old customer than find a new customer. If that, it's been true forever, I think even more important today, especially if there's been a disconnect with some of a disengagement, and for one reason, maybe you've spent less in marketing, maybe you've sort of just been focusing on survival. I think that those are fine, but that type of really smart re-engagement is timely right now. I think it'll lead to a really successful Q4 if there's seasonality or just general positive trend, even if you're not a Q4 sort of holiday seasonal company. Right. And we're spending, I'll just say for our clients, a ton of time making new creative and really thinking about messaging and what the promotional opportunities are and the timing that we want to engage, and really kind of like reinventing the customer journey using using everything we knew, but also kind of like sort of weaving in a lot of what 2020 has brought in challenges and opportunity, because it is a unique time, but it's not, and we've said this, it's not unique because it's the worst ever. I mean, it's bad in many ways. From a marketing and customer acquisition and growth, this is, to use another metaphor, there's a global reshuffling of the decks, right? In brands and consumer behavior. New customers are trying new things from new places at new cadences. And so most of our clients are not the giant incumbents. They're the ones that are trying to take market share. This is a phenomenally exciting time in that context. And we're excited to help them, make the most of this. Really interesting, challenging, exciting time, not a boring year.
Definitely. Well, let's end it there. Listen, I just want to say thank you. And of course, with anybody that goes on Annex Cloud Market Movers and looks at this videotape, they can always go to Wpromote and find you, your website, on LinkedIn too. You're really good on LinkedIn.
Yep.
So they can find you that way, correct?
Yep, they find us on wpromote.com. I'm Mike at Wpromote if you want to shoot a note. Super happy to do this. This is always, as you can see, these topics, like, it's what I do. I sit here and I'm on video calls all day, basically having variations of this conversation.
Let's do it again soon. I appreciate it.
I'd love to.
So much.
All right,
Take care.
thanks so much, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.